Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's TIA live stream, Agent Assisted Logistics, how AI is redefining 3PL execution. My name is Anthony. I am with the TIA as well as the host for today's event. I'm joined by two great guest speakers from Banyan Technology. They will be introducing themselves further shortly. I just have a few housekeeping items to get through. We are first going to start with a word from our sponsor. We will hear a little video now.
Freight isn't static, it's dynamic. It evolves. Today, freight brokers have more on the line, and they need to act faster than ever before. Rates move, capacity shifts, and customer expectations never slow down. That's why, for decades, brokers have trusted DAT. Now, we're evolving to serve you better. We've brought together innovative companies and brilliant minds obsessed with solving broker problems. And we've accelerated how quickly ideas become products. All to create a one-stop shop for trusted capacity, automation, and real-time insights. That means the largest, most secure carrier network in freight. It means full visibility to give your customers peace of mind. It means simplified execution to keep pace with a fast-moving industry, and real-time market insights to anticipate changes before they happen. DAT Freight and Analytics. We take the uncertainty out of freight.
All right, and thank you all for paying attention there. Now we're going to move into our antitrust statement. Discussion, comments, and presentations during TIA functions must not refer to any past, present, or future rates, prices, or anything related thereto, include any reference to marketing strategies, include any discussion of boycotts of any person, product, or firm, or inhibit any members, employees from discussing employment with other member companies. Additionally, things you hear during the meeting that are confidential and private to TIA should not be shared publicly without its prior consent or used against or in competition with TIA. Next up for questions during the session, we have options for you to choose from. Wherever you are watching this, please feel free to submit your comment through the comments section. And if you're uncomfortable with that, feel free to email us at education@tianet.org with the subject live stream. And after our discussion, we will answer the questions from the audience. If you have any questions about the TIA resources, which we may be discussing today, please contact info@tianet.org. And when you want to come back to review this recording, you can come back to LinkedIn or YouTube, wherever you're watching it now, and just come back to the event, rewatch it. Again, if you have a comment after you rewatch the recording, feel free to submit that comment there, and we will aim to get back to you as soon as possible. Again, if you are watching this on LinkedIn, feel free to check out the TI profile for future live streams like this one and further TIA resources. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our speakers, Alex and Matt, but I will be here if there are any questions. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Anthony. My name is Alex Frigo. I'm the sales director here at Banyan Technology. We are a TMS provider and a carrier connectivity platform that services the 3PL and shipper markets. So we have a unique perspective on what's happening in AI as we see it both from the shipper side and the 3PL side. And here with me is Matt Celia, and I will let him introduce himself.
Yes, thank you, Alex. I'm Matt Celia. I'm our senior solutions engineer. And like Alex said, we get a unique view on the market and how AI is being utilized. And my position is actually pretty fun. I get to be on the front lines of this, of implementing beta and getting that initial feedback. So very excited to be here.
So one of the first things that I wanted to talk about today's podcast, if you will, was how the market sentiment on AI itself has really changed quite a bit in the last year or so. We're fresh off of TIA, and normally at that conference, there's quite a few TMS booths, not a lot of AI companies. was almost a 50-50 split between TMS companies and AI companies. So it's very clear that it's here to stay. But if you rewind a little further to about a year, 2 years ago, everybody was very curious about AI, and it was all over the place, but there was really no substance to it. And then I saw a transition to almost, AI fatigue, where people asked about AI, they were tired of hearing about AI, and there wasn't really anything there. Now, where we are today is there are quite a few companies, Banyan included, other TMS companies, AI companies that are very forward thinking about AI and have products in production environments with customers reaping the benefits and the ROI of everything that is happening with AI. I would say gone is the sentiment where, AI is going to take people's jobs. And then now people are starting to be a little bit more accepting of AI is going to optimize full-time employees and allow them to do a lot more. And there is a trust that's been bestowed upon AI to handle scalable, repeatable, practical challenges, not take over, customer facing or sales type roles, but often it's the back end or the paperwork or some of the blocking and tackling that occurs in our industry. That is where we're seeing AI, specifically AI agents, be the most successful. Matt, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like I said, I get the unique perspective of being on the front lines of that. When we were pitching, from the Banyan side of things, our initial roadmap on AI a year ago to now, we have things in production. Like you said, a lot of those initial concerns were, is this going to take jobs? What's it going to, how is it doing it? Now it's being seen as, this is a tool in my toolkit that I need. It's becoming a regular part of everyone's workflow, and it's excelling at those repeatable tasks that are just kind of a pain to execute, and so you're not necessarily using it to reduce FTE as much as you're using it to reallocate FTE spend to more meaningful tasks and putting your team's focus towards the more impactful things versus calling the carrier for a super easy update. And I like to joke a lot, when we're talking about these tools, that one of the ones we have is a tracking agent. It's probably an AI agent talking to another AI agent. You call some of these carriers and they're already using it on their side. So for your team to be able to implement and use it as well, instead of them having to go through the phone tree or an AI agent, they can focus on, great, I have that information. Now what do I need to do to get it back on track?
Yeah, that's a good point, Matt. When we started flirting almost with the concept of AI and what we wanted to offer, one of my ideas, which is it's not dead and it's going to be valuable, it's going to work, was to have LTL agents read LTL, or AI agents read LTL tariffs in real time, so it would actually validate the rate and would kind of forego the need for any, freight auditing versus your contractor tariff. Can you have an AI agent do that? Are we going to come out with that? Yes, but when we started surveying the market and our customers and prospects on both sides of the industry, what we found is what often sounded like really cool or kind of flashy was kind of like, yeah, that'd be nice. We'd use that ever so often. But when we got into what are you doing every single day that you genuinely just dislike doing, or maybe you're so talented at the core functionality of your job that it's a huge pain to get sidetracked with something else. And that seems to be where the AI agents and other AI services are being most valuable. The one that we're particularly proud of right now, because adoption rate has been very high, is the AI agents that work on your exceptions bucket in a TMS environment. Everybody in this industry often starts their day or ends their day with missed pickups or missed deliveries. Well, if whether you're waking up at 4 a.m. to snipe the DAT board or coming in the morning as a shipper at 7:30 in the morning, you can have the AI agents work on those exceptions starting like an hour before you get into work. And then if you have 6 shipments in that exceptions bucket and the AI agent has gone out and collected that data on those 6 shipments, or sometimes even helped to correct those issues, that gives that individual such a head start on their day that instead of stomping out these little mini fires, they're coming in and knocking out their to-do list, their priorities, their sales objectives that really help them grow their book of business or the company that they work for. And that's been extremely valuable. So valuable to say that I don't think that's going anywhere. I think that's
No,
just going to
no.
continue to be enhanced and become almost a native offering. It's a native offering in Banyan, and I'm assuming that a lot of other great companies in the industry will also follow.
And I imagine that the carrier side is gonna, if they're not already adopting it, they're gonna adopt that further as well. Coming from my background, like you said, unfortunately, I ended most of my evenings looking at exception reports of going, "Hey, how do I need to get this into my next day?" So those are the kind of tasks that we're seeing have the most value add. And even like Alex said, we're already looking at how do we build on these existing ones. Not only are we looking at how do we add new agents, but you have these baseline agents. How do you extend their functionality further to include more impactful functions that help a little bit further? Like a great example is one that's retrieving documents like PODs and bill of lading images on the AP side and invoicing side of things. Can we enhance that agent further to also submit a claim as well? And what are some of the drawbacks and positives of that to help, again, just reduce some of those tasks where a human can be better used for something else?
And Matt, just so the audience knows, what was your background?
I come from the carrier side, so I worked at a parcel carrier for about 10 years, and I was an operations manager. So lots of experience on on the exception side and getting to see both sides of the coin here.
So if you went backwards in time to that role, or you weren't on the dark side of freight tech, how much time in your day would exceptions-based AI agents save?
Oh my God, probably hours. Because I had the unique experience of working on both inbound and outbound sides of the operation. And you run into this on both sides. There's always the exception based reporting, and there's always differences. I like to joke with prospects that the carriers always have some kind of weather related reasoning for something. And all joking aside, there is some truth to that. So when you're looking at these, even from a carrier's perspective, um, there's gonna be different things that fall into it. You start looking at HOS and hours of service and where drivers are at and how to look at these things. So using a proactive agent to not only look at your exceptions, but then you also have it look at things like the driver's current status, what their clock in time is versus hours of service. But those were hours I would spend every day going, okay, I need to put a coverage driver in this section of the city to help for overflow. But an AI agent utilizing those same data points can help give me the information to make the decision myself within seconds or minutes of what would have taken me hours.
Yeah, it's fun stuff. It's exciting. It actually segues into a question we got from the audience here. Muhammad asked, all coming from shipping, the IT industry, that's the input. What's the growth with AI in this field? What's coming in afterward? Afterwards, that's a tough question. I have some ideas, though, for sure. But on the growth side, I feel like it's just like anything else, really, where once something becomes a table stakes or a standardized solution across the board, then all the technology companies adopt it. Some will have first movers advantage. Some will, have the premium enterprise offering and SMB and out of the box. And then those who don't adopt it end up getting left behind, right?
Yeah.
You could almost look at it as the transition between the popularity of EDI and API in our industry.
Right.
Look at EDI tracking versus API tracking. From the perspective of the shipper, they don't really care that it's EDI. They don't care how that technology works. They care about
They care about the
data
result.
integrity and the result and the timeliness and the number of milestones. And so, quite often we still set up a lot of EDI, but there's not a reason to set up EDI tracking if API tracking is available. So looking at tracking, for example, right now, when you have an AI agent track, it's basically a check call. And on that check call, you're asking, the truckload carrier when they're going to be there. So the tracking milestone that's populating into TMSs or back into, an ERP, if the shipper has it linked in, is not just a timestamp milestone of what happened, it's predictive information of what's going to happen. So arguably, the AI tracking, if it's accurate and it's timely and there's plenty of it, is more valuable because you could keep continuing to get updates about what is going to happen, not what happened 20 minutes ago that you get an hour later in a time-stamped update. So that's hyper valuable for my customers and prospects. Absolutely. Matt, how do you feel about the AI tracking?
Yeah, agreed. And I think to echo the growth of it, and like you said, of it being table stakes moving forward, is I look at this through two lenses. Is one, are we solving an actual problem? Alex talked about AI fatigue, the word being thrown out, and there are companies out there making products that are really cool, they're really flashy, but when you really strip it down, you're like, what problem am I solving? So when you talk about the growth in the industry, you really want to make sure that you're utilizing and building products that are solving a real problem. And then the other side of that coin, and it went right into what we were just talking about with EDI and APIs. How well does that solution then integrate into existing technologies? So when you want to push this technology further and grow it, those are kind of the two things you want to look at, because then it becomes like we said, it's table stakes, it's highly functional, there's a lot more data points that could be leveraged throughout the life cycle of a shipment. And then bringing it back to the tracking point, one of my favorite examples of us rolling out AI tracking agents is we're talking with one of our early adopters, and we're getting their feedback, and they were talking about one of their carriers was like, hey, you're bombarding me with calls. And we start looking at the data, and the client ends up just saying, based off the data, you're late every time. I'm like, if they told their carrier, if you want to stop getting the calls, be better at performing, be on time more frequently. So that's something that a human just couldn't do before. And sure, it might be frustrating for the carrier, but at the end of the day, this is what's going to help drive better service for shippers, is calling out those trends and identifying it with analytical AI assisted data.
TOS industry. I'm assuming you're talking about terminal operating systems, Mohammed. I'll take that as a yes. I would say the terminals. One thing that I've learned in this industry is, you might see a big name and a big company running a terminal, and you might find out that it's maybe not as sophisticated as an operation as you would think. And to some that's not a shock at all, and then to others it might be disappointed. There's a lot of manual data entry going on at terminals. So I think that some of that is going to get cleaned up, which ultimately will result in faster transmissions of paperwork. Really, like we have the AI agent calling in to get the missing, proof of delivery or signed bill of lading or many other documents, right? But if the carriers, no matter which mode, really, it doesn't matter if it's drayage, LTL, freight forwarding, right? The carriers themselves upgrade their technology, then a lot of that paperwork will, become a lot better. I can't really say when, but if you look at the technology curve in general of like anything, as AI continues to get better, it's going to become more and more cost effective, and it's easier to install. Like for example, at first, we took the TMS and modified the TMS so that it was able to natively integrate with agents, and that was great. But if you really take a complicated agent and that does voice well, it's not as easy to stand up as you'd think. Well, now it's gotten to the point where we're getting ready to start giving out a workbench like product to our own customer base so they can build and design their own agents to allow them to self-service custom functionality out of the agents.
Yeah.
So that's just the journey that we've gone on in the last year, where as a technology company, this is kind of crazy. I don't know if it's going to work, to, oh, wow, this does work.
Right.
And not only does it work, we're now able to offer a portable self-service version of it. If you look at other pieces of technology across the energy industry, the journey of, oh, this whole thing is in a beta. Well, we can do it, but it's custom and it takes time, and we'll see in 6 months when it's done, to, oh, now you can, have ownership and do that yourself. That journey that all technology kind of goes through often takes a really long time. But here with AI, it's taken 2 years, 18 months, 12 months, depending on where people are starting. So I would say that the carriers themselves, if you look at what's the metric, it's like revenue per mile. They're supposed to be at like at a 15 to 20% margin, and the whole industry's operating at like a 2% margin right now. Anything that those guys can do to increase that margin level by reducing cost of labor and becoming more efficient is so good for the whole entire industry, because the industry is feeling a lot of pressure and kind of being squeezed in multiple directions, and fuel and everything. So I can't speak for carrier terminals, but I would see that that's a huge market and opportunity to enhance some of the technology in the terminals through AI.
Well, and it really comes down to how much the shippers, the 3PLs, the brokers start adopting it themselves. We often see that some of the trucking side of the industry is slower to adopt than the actual users themselves. So the more pressure that you see from the industry onto the carriers, the more they're going to start to adopt it as well. Just like everybody, they have the technology and cost restraints as well. But as it becomes more and more table stakes and the standard for what you're doing day in and day out, you're going to see a quicker adoption rate than on that side as well. It comes down to, even you think about tools like Shiplify, where it started on as a carrier tool, then was turned over to shippers and 3PLs. You might start seeing these AI agents start doing the opposite as well. A great example is us talking about the exception based reports and stuff like that. a carrier starts picking up that their shippers and 3PLs are using that, they're going to want to adopt that internally on their side. So then they're preventing that from getting all the way down to their end customers. But yeah, so there's definitely a lot of growth, a lot of things moving in the industry on this topic, and I would say, the most exciting thing is seeing the results right now for us. Like we're firsthand getting to see a lot of really great feedback. And today I came out of a meeting about an hour ago where we were talking about the next 3 things we're rolling out later this quarter. So it's exciting to see and talk about the benefits. One of the things we are talking about was specifically for brokers and 3PLs on carrier onboarding and vetting carriers. There's already really great tools out there today, like Highway and My Carrier Packets. But we were talking about an AI agent that could screen the initial calls from the carriers, and then also do outbound calls to find carriers and capacity. It's such a common issue or a common need that it's exciting to talk more and more about. Hey, here's what we're planning on doing in the next couple months to support that further.
Yeah, Matt, I also feel like from the shipper side, the shippers, you got the shippers, the carriers, the 3PLs, and depending on who you ask, you get different answers on who has the worst technology, right? Or who has the most to improve. But shippers are looking at their 3PLs and asking them to have more and better and faster technology constantly at this point, especially if you have a managed trans offering. I mean, if you have some sort of 4PL or managed trans offering, then technology is part of your sales cycle because you're providing it natively to your customer base. Kind of like how you see shippers can't get Highway, but they know about Highway, so they want their brokers to be using Highway. Well, now shippers are kind of saying the same thing about AI. How are you using AI to monitor and track my shipments?
Exactly.
So it's definitely to the advantage of 3PLs to move on it quickly and establish a baseline for it to understand where do they get the maximum ROI out of it. I've seen people go a little crazy, and then I've also seen people be extremely risk averse and shy away from it. But those folks are kind of sitting in the classic case of, well, if I bring on more customers, I have to just hire more employees, and it's not scalable.
It's about how do you do more with less, especially with how the market has been kind of fluctuating and some of the other factors that play into the cost as well. You want to have the ability to rapidly scale without bringing on headcount. So you don't want to reduce headcount and take away the jobs that way, but you do want to have kind of a safety net of, well, if I have a big increase, can I lean on AI a little bit further until I can prove that this is a sustainable trend, and then bring on additional headcount from there. So for the 3PL, as things are fluctuating, having these agents where they can do initial screening calls with carriers, or even support agents where they're taking after hour support calls from their shippers. That's just another great way to kind of help be nimble and flexible in a drastically changing environment and market.
Any other questions from the audience?
Yeah. And I was gonna say, Alex, what are some of the what's your like dream AI tool? If a company, whether it's us or someone else, could release, what would your like dream AI tool be for the industry?
I think that using all right, so there's a lot of tools that in TMS that are take a creative brain or the right professional behind them. Example would be analytical work, right?
Yeah.
Think using a batch rater or using an RFP tool or doing load consolidation. Those are all great tools, but you have to stick somebody in the driver's seat to
Right.
actually get those to function. So if there were AI agents that could bolt onto the more complicated tools that said, "Hey, I've got a sales guy who collected all this freight data. Go ahead and batch it against my blankets AI agent, and then let me know which carrier I should go out to CSP with, or which carrier we should run our blankets with, or why don't you take the results of this RFP and go and call this carrier and tell him that he needs to resubmit." So
Oh yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I think the more dynamic agents, it's got to be headed in that way, because every time you turn on the news, it's like, look at the newest version of Claude, look at the newest version
Yeah.
of ChatGPT. So right now we're asking them to do very linear things with pre-existing tools to take away manual tasks. But how long until um, the TMS is saying, "Hey, I went ahead and looked at your data based on last quarter's numbers and the current market sentiment. I would suggest going back to these four carriers and doing another round of RFP. We think you can, produce more savings for your customer." Stuff like that. I feel like it's headed that way. I just don't know how long.
And you put something like that in the hands of like a skilled analyst, and you really start talking about potential, reducing of cost and efficiency. Then, yeah, I love that. Me personally, I'm a consumer at heart. Like I love ordering stuff online. I'm probably part of the e-commerce surge. Um, Anything on tracking for me. So, one of the things I'm excited about that we're doing and other people are doing as well is just more predictive tracking. So the further that we can get with predictive tracking and the analytics tied to that is something that excites me. I'm a classic person. I hit order on online and my nose is against the glass just with steam coming out waiting for it to get delivered. So for me, I'm excited for all things on the tracking side, because it not only does it help the carriers and the shippers kind of keep track of where their stuff is, it helps give more visibility to the customer, which at the end of the day just gives more confidence for then repeat customers to keep ordering and buying with you. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the consumer, you look at post-COVID and direct to consumer and the concept of, well, I can just order a hot tub off of an e-com store and it'll be here in like 7 days. Freight was not really ready for that. So I would not be surprised if we see some shipment specific AI agent that is really just like, okay, Bob and Susie ordered a hot tub and they just click ship and they don't really understand, they didn't tell an accessorial, nobody is coordinating with the carrier, they had to stop and then come back, or they're late or whatever. I would almost see AI agents personally attached to the success of a life cycle of a, not necessarily a complicated shipment, but like a painful one.
Yeah, or a high value one. Like you start talking about high value shipments and fraud protection, you could almost tie that into that as well at that point.
Yeah, like you could, like if you're a metals company or you're a brokerage for a metals company, those loads are two, three, four, $500,000 loads. And being able to say, hey, I've assigned an agent to monitor this shipment for its entire life cycle, no matter what time of the day it is, that's going to be valuable. You have, some really great companies doing things like that now. Overhaul was one of them, and I would imagine that, you know, they probably already have this, right? But there's going to be more unique ways to use the agents, I feel like. But for right now, like I don't know about you, but I was actually worried that this is all going to go to crap. 90% of the AI companies are going to go out of business, and nothing is going to come from this, and then the economy is going to tank, just like a dot-com bubble. But now we're actually seeing it's gotten to the point where why would I not want AI agents monitoring my exceptions bucket?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I think that even goes back to the point of like, sure, there are going to be some companies that go out for having a super bold idea, but when you start talking about things that impact your bottom line in the interest of your shippers and your customers, like, yeah, that's here to stay. That's not going to probably be like a .com burst. That's going to become table stakes very, very, very quickly, if not by the end of the year or sooner.
Oh yeah. Well, I think we had 30 minutes for this thing, Matt.
I think we did. Yeah, unless there's any other questions, I think
Oh, there's Anthony.
there he is.
Thanks, Matt and Alex. Appreciate that information. And everyone, I thank you for your questions, Mohammed, and our other students with the questions. As always, if you have any other questions, we have a minute or two left. Feel free to shoot it in there. But if not, we will stay tuned for any questions that might come in after the fact. Additionally, if you want to email your question, if you weren't comfortable sending it in or weren't able to, please reach out to us at education@tinet.org. Alex and Matt, before we sign off, where can people contact you for more information if they want to, bug you after learning about some of this stuff today?
Sure. I mean, I'd say you can find me on LinkedIn. That's super easy. And then my email is just arago@banyontechnology.com. And by all means, nobody's bugging me if you want to talk freight. And
Same.
I can't seem to turn it off anyways. So
Yeah, my wife has got plenty of notes about me talking too much about freight. But yeah, same. LinkedIn, common place to find me. I'm mcelia@banyontechnology.com. Happy to talk about AI, the direction of the industry. Love talking to folks about this.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Alex, and thank you, Matt. We appreciate it, and we will see you all in the next one. Thank you, everyone, for your attendance today.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.